Yo, what's up, guys? Really frustrating loss last night for the Toronto Raptors, losing to the San Antonio Spurs 110-107, guys. Really valiant effort last night for the Raptors. Played a really solid game last night. Should have beaten the Spurs last night. Have a 12-point lead going into the fourth quarter, and Coach Darko Rajakovic makes an absolutely bonehead decision to sit Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram the first couple minutes of the fourth quarter, and it absolutely cost the Raptors in this ball game tonight. The momentum swung for the Spurs. They went on a 10-0 run to start the fourth quarter. They didn't look back. The Raptors couldn't recover offensively, and that was curtains for this game. But the Raptors played fantastic, I felt, for three quarters in this game. The first quarter, they were solid, getting stops on defense, making their shots, drawing some fouls. I really liked what the Raptors did in this game last night. They had the perfect game plan to neutralize Wembanyama last night. Wemby only had 4 points in the first half. Raptors did a great job being physical with him, playing tight defense on him, putting him on his ass a few times in the game last night. I thought the Raptors did an immense job guarding Wemby. Now, obviously, you had some guys like Castle, Vassell, who were really good. Of course, obviously guys like Harper coming off the bench. The Spurs obviously have some really good young players, coming into this game on a 9-game winning streak, of course, So the Spurs were really feeling themselves coming into this game, and they have some great young players in this team. Like I mentioned, Castle, he was able to drive in the lane. Raptors were giving up too many straight line drives in this game last night to the Spurs. The Spurs did have some chances down low in the paint, but I felt the Raptors did some really good things on defense, made some adjustments. Jakob Poeltl playing on the second night of a back-to-back, of course, not playing the night prior against the Oklahoma City Thunder. And, and I think the Raptors beat the Thunder if Jakob Poeltl plays in that game against Oklahoma City. Last night, Jakob Poeltl was fantastic for the Raptors. He was a plus 18 on the floor. I thought he was fantastic for the Raptors on defense, spreading out the floor, setting screens on the pick and roll. Really loved what I saw from Jakob Poeltl last night. Jakob Poeltl, guys, last night, he was fantastic. I felt 28 minutes, 15 rebounds, 7 assists, guys. I thought Jakob did some really good things for the Raptors. Obviously with his size, helps a guy out like Emmanuel quickly on the screen and roll quickly, really thrives more with a big man like Jakob Poeltl. We saw that many times on the screen and roll. He quickly would drive with the floater, make a couple shots. Quickly had a decent game with 20 points tonight, but there were just one quarter that cost this team dramatically. It was the fourth. The third quarter, I felt the Raptors were absolutely spectacular on defense. They did a great job in the first half, taking the lead in the first half, going into halftime with the lead as well, continuing to do that in the second half, in the third quarter, especially only holding the Spurs to 21 points in the third quarter. Raptors outscoring them 31-21. Did a great job defensively. You had Jamal Shed with some great offensive production again in this game, having 12 points, guys. 3 for 7 from the field. Jamal Shed, like I said a few games ago, if he is productive like this offensively, giving you 10 to 12 points a game, that's fantastic, and then you add only 3 assists. Jamal Shed usually averages about 5 to 6 assists a game, but he was really good tonight defensively, offensively as well. Really liked what I see from Jamal Shed in this game today, guys, and then, Scotty and B.I., really carried the Raptors in the first half, did some good things offensively. Second half, a little bit quieter, obviously, but Scotty and B.I., obviously combining for 35 in this game tonight. B.I. having a double-double with 20 and 11. Did some good things in this game, guys, but like I said, Darko Rajakovic, love his passion, getting a technical foul, defending the team, asking the refs to call a foul there on the Brandon Ingram three-point shot there that he got fouled. There was a non-call there, but Coach Darko, man, again, you cannot be taking up Brandon and Scotty at the same time, and it absolutely killed them in the fourth. Taking a 12-point lead in the fourth, like I mentioned there, you cannot do that. And then the Spurs, like I said, just commanded this game in the fourth, locked up defensively, made three-pointers, had 17 threes in this game, guys. And that was the difference in this game, was one quarter ended this result for the Raptors. You could have had a valiant win today against a top 10 team in the NBA, snapping their 9-game win streak. They extended it to 10. Now, you have a 4-15 record against top 10 teams in the NBA. It's just not good enough, This was a game you needed to have after the loss to the Thunder the night prior. You needed to beat the Spurs. You should have won this game tonight. There is no excuses as to why you didn't win this game. You went cold offensively and like 1 for 10, the first like 17 minutes of the fourth quarter. Your defense let up. You don't box out on the free throw at the end of the game that you let Harper get the offensive rebound. That's on RJ Barrett again. Not keep an eye on his man. Defensively, he had some breakdowns. Offensively, RJ wasn't great again tonight as well, only having 12 points on 4-14 shooting with 7 rebounds. Need more from RJ offensively, guys. Honestly, love him as a player, but there's just some frustrating things regarding RJ Barrett defensively, and then he has these lulls offensively as well. Defensively, he has deficiencies as well. It's really frustrating to see some of the games RJ Barrett has had as of late, and then free throws as well. Did a good job there, 85%. The three-pointers only 35%. The Thunder had 16 threes the night prior. Spurs had 17 yesterday. So there you go. Perimeter defense wasn't good at the end of the game there. That was another frustrating moment. Vassell had a lot of opportunities on threes. The Spurs shot 46% from the field. We shot 42%. We did some very good things tonight in this game. The game plan on Wemby was great. Did really good, some really good things on defense. Offense looked good at times in this game. You didn't get much production from Mamu tonight. He didn't shoot a three-pointer. Didn't have many points tonight in this game. Murray Boyles leaves the game early again to that persistent thumb injury of his. He's probably going to need to get surgery at the end of the season there, guys. Battle didn't play much. Grady Dick didn't get any minutes tonight. That is very telling, to say the least, guys. Jacoby had 19, only had 5 points tonight. Like I said, CMB only playing 15 because of the thumb. There was some issues in this game tonight. Some positive moments. Like I said, Jakob Poeltl was positive in this game tonight. But, Raptors only having 17 assists as well compared to the Spurs. 28, 11 steals for the Spurs compared to our 6. 13 turnovers each. That's not horrible, but not amazing. We had more points in the paint. 48 points in the paint to their 36, and they have Wembanyama. So we did a good job getting points in the paint. When Wemby was not on the floor, we took advantage. When he was not on the floor, Raptors did a good job of taking advantage when he was sitting on the bench there. But at the end of the game there, just really killed this team. 23 points off turnovers there for the Raptors. Fast break points, 16 fast break points for the Raptors. That was another thing that hurt the Raptors in the fourth. We're not moving in transition. The Spurs were able to set their defense, and then that was it. Raptors cannot be able to break a team down offensively when they're playing a set defense because we don't have enough shooters. Raptors turn the ball over sometimes. Really frustrating fourth quarter last night for the Raptors, getting outscored 32-17. Just unacceptable for me by the coach. The effort by the team in the fourth quarter just was not good enough, guys, to say the least. You got the Wizards on Saturday. You better win that game. You got 2 days off now. Really tough loss last night for the Raptors. Got to improve, man, with this record against top teams in the NBA. Another loss there, guys. Like I mentioned, 15 losses against top 10 NBA teams. 4-15 record. Just not good enough by the Raptors, guys. Another frustrating loss. A game that they should have had in the bag. But unfortunately, bad coaching decisions. Bad shot opportunities there, taking some bad shots. Defense let up there, boxing out at the end of the game there, guys. Really frustrating to say the least. Spurs got some great young talents on their team, like I mentioned, Castle and Harper, of course, obviously Wemby as well, guys. Then you got guys like Vassell, who had 21 points as well, guys. So, and obviously, De'Aaron Fox is a great point guard as well, guys. Some solid players on the Spurs. They are going to be a formidable team for the next 10 years, I think, with the talent that they have. Like I mentioned, with the young talent with Harper and Castle and Wemby. All those three guys are lottery picks as well. You knew the Spurs were going to turn a corner eventually, with the talent that they have. You can see they're finally doing that now with their 10-game winning streak. The first time they've done that in quite some time, to say the least. So the Spurs are a solid team, a force to be reckoned with. Of course, obviously, I don't think they're ready to win an NBA title yet. I think there are a few other teams ahead of them right now, but they are going in the right direction. So are the Raptors, but they're just a team that have a little bit more deficiencies, the Raptors, that I think they need to work on to become an NBA champion once again. But guys, love to your thoughts and opinions on this game last night. So like this video, subscribe if you guys want to see more content. Go Raptors, go as always, guys. We'll see you guys on the next episode of Raptors Unfiltered. Ciao, guys.